We've already had ongoing operations with ICE in Chicago and throughout Illinois and other states, making sure that we're upholding our laws. But we do intend to add more resources to those operations.
That's DHS Secretary Noem confirming plans to expand ICE crackdowns in major cities across the nation as Democrat leaders vow to resist at all costs.
ICE Deputy Director Madison Sheehan joins us now. Deputy Director, thanks so much for joining the program.
Thank you for having me.
So let's talk about this expansion of the program, 287G. Tell me about the program. I know you guys are going to be working with local law enforcement to go after the worst of the worst. Tell me what the first priority is.
Absolutely. So the 287G program is really a historic opportunity for ICE to be able to have a force multiplier with state and local law enforcement. We've had fantastic partnerships with Republican governors all over the country, sheriffs all over the country, and local police departments. And recently we've announced that we're going to be giving out historic funding to state and local law enforcement through President Trump's Big Beautiful Bill. This is of reaffirming the commitment that Secretary Noem and President Trump has made to state and local law enforcement, that if you're going to come out and you're going to work with ICE, we are going to support you, not only with resources, but also financially, and make sure that you have the support that you need for your officers to go out in the street and get the worst of the worst out of your communities.
In Madison, we were playing just a little while ago sound from Chicago residents who are begging for federal assistance. As we know, neither the governor nor the mayor of Chicago cooperate with ICE, but yet the administration, you guys have pledged to go in there and try and crack down and get these violent illegal criminals off the streets. Can you update us on where that stands?
Absolutely. Well, as you all know, oftentimes these Democrat-run cities are the ones who need ICE the most. And the men and women of ICE, Secretary Noem and President Trump will not be deterred by Democrat members of Congress, of governors, and of local leadership who are saying they will not work with ICE. The men and women of ICE will continue to go after the worst of the worst. We will go into communities and we will enforce immigration law as it's written. We have the support of Secretary Noem, who understands the importance of working with state and local leadership. But if these Democrat-run cities don't want to work with us, we will continue to go into these cities, and Chicago is another great example of that.
So just quickly, I know you don't want to get ahead of the secretary or any plans with a timeline on Chicago, but is it fair to say then that Chicago is going to see a crackdown, whether they want it or not?
Look, we are going to be going into the toughest cities in America, protecting the American people, choosing to put the American people first every single day. We will remove rapists, murderers, and traffickers from the streets in order to protect the American people.
So what's the latest on the threat level against your officers? We saw overnight a clash with the protesters in Portland. They were attacking your officers. What are you guys doing on the ground to make sure they have the support that they need?
Look, we're seeing historic threats against ICE officers, but that's not going to deter us. We will continue to go after these criminals, these alien criminals that have wreaked havoc on the American people over the last 4 years. And we will continue to support our ICE officers, making sure they have the tools and resources they need to be successful. We will work with them to protect their family, whether it's from doxing or the threats that we see against them on a daily basis. The men and women of ICE are some of the most highly trained law enforcement officers in the country, and the director and I, Secretary Noem and President Trump, will continue to support them every single day that they are out working and removing the worst of the worst from this country.
Hey, Madison, let's talk a little bit about the gubernatorial race in Virginia. I've covered there in D.C., in the Northern Virginia area, Fairfax, Sanctuary City, Arlington, Sanctuary City. And now the Democrat candidate, Abigail Spanberger, is basically saying she wants to rescind any cooperation that Governor Youngkin wanted. She says in a statement the idea that we would take local police officers, local sheriff's deputies in amid all the things that they have to do, like community policing or staffing our jails or investigating real crimes so that they can go and tear families apart. That is a misuse of those resources. Your reaction to Spanberger's really guarantee that she's going to try and not cooperate?
Well, Governor Youngkin has been a fantastic partner to the men and women of ICE. We work with him every day. I recently had a great phone call with him where he continued to express his support for the men and women of ICE. And a new a new Democrat governor is not going to stop the men and women of ICE. We will go after cities in Virginia the same way we're going out in LA, in Chicago, and these other major metropolitan areas that choose not to work with ICE. I think she's doing a disservice to the people of Virginia if she chooses not to work with ICE and enforce the immigration laws it's written, but that's not going to deter us. We will continue to go after the worst of the worst in the state of Virginia.
I just wonder, are these leaders aware of the cartels that are involved in their state, like the Commonwealth that you guys just took down the other day? There's a whole criminal enterprise that you guys are having to deal with, and they're resisting you.
Absolutely. We took historic numbers of MS-13 gang members off the street alongside the Virginia State Police and our other federal partners. If she knew that and paid attention to that, I think she'd want ICE out working and enforcing immigration law throughout the country to get murderers, rapists, and traffickers off her streets, which we've already seen in major metropolitan areas of Virginia.
And failure to cooperate with ICE clearly protects, as Lawrence was talking about, the MS-13 gang members, Tren de Aragua gang members that you have been cracking down. Deputy ICE Director Madison Sheehan, thank you for taking time today.
The deployment of National Guard troops and a surge in ICE enforcement in Chicago could happen by the end of the week.
Winnie is live with the latest developments. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, in separate interviews, DHS Secretary Kristi Noem and Governor J.B. Pritzker appeared on Face the Nation. Of course, J.B. Pritzker continued to say troops to Chicago is dangerous, while Noem says Pritzker should be focusing on ways to better protect the city instead of opposing ideas.
So this is dangerous. They shouldn't be doing it. It's anti-American. It's un-American. We would like ATF agents to help us take more guns off the streets. We would like FBI, again, to coordinate with our local law enforcement to help catch perpetrators of crimes. If they would do that, we would welcome that.
This seems like it's more about Governor Pritzker's ego now rather than actually protecting his people. If he has one murder in the city of Chicago, he should be calling President Trump and saying, what's your ideas?
Mayor Brandon Johnson said he received credible reports that in the coming days, Chicago will see some type of military activity. He signed an executive order on Saturday establishing the Protecting Chicago Initiative. The order demands that President Trump stand down from his threat to deploy National Guard personnel to Chicago. It states when Chicago police officers engage in crowd control or safety operations, it is required that their outer layer clearly identify them as a CPD officer. This also helps residents distinguish between a CPD officer and federal law enforcement. Mayor Johnson says there is no need for military checkpoints or armored vehicles in the city. If troops come to Chicago, the executive order directs the city to pursue all available legal and legislative avenues to resist efforts by the federal government. The executive order is also aimed to protect the rights of Chicagoans amid ICE enforcement. This comes as Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem says a surge of immigration and customs enforcement operations is expected as soon as Friday. However, she did not mention if they will be accompanied by the National Guard troops.
We will protect our Constitution, we will protect our city, and we will protect our people. We do not want to see tanks in our streets. We do not want to see families ripped apart. We do not want grandmothers thrown into the back of unmarked vans. We don't want to see homeless Chicagoans harassed or disappeared by federal agents. We don't want to see Chicagoans arrested for sitting on their porch.
Now, according to the city, from the beginning of the year until now, not including this weekend's violence, Chicago has recorded a 21% decline in overall crime, 32% in homicides, 31% decrease in robberies, and a 49% decrease in vehicular hijackings. Now, coming up at 11 o'clock, there will be a Labor Day rally. Many Chicagoans are opposing President Trump's decision to send the National Guard troops to Chicago. I'm live here at the museum campus. Winnie Dortch, WGN News.
Well, Democratic Congresswoman Emily Randall says she was denied entry to that very facility during an unannounced visit over the weekend, though she says officials confirm, yes, they are holding the 2 firefighters arrested last week.
There is no legal authority for them to deny me access to do my oversight duty, but they did. And at a time when this administration is waging a war on immigrants in our communities and folks who look like they might be immigrants. We are seeing people just rounded up and disappeared.
Randall represents the local congressional district there. She says she's been allowed in several times since May. Today, several community groups, by the way, held a rally at Northeast Portland's Glen Haven Park to protest the Trump administration's policies around immigration. The Oregon Rising Alliance organized this event. One of the groups there was the Portland Association of Teachers.
It's our students who are the ones coming to school afraid that they won't see their parents after school. It's our families who are dropping off their kids and letting us know their bank numbers in case they're not the ones able to pick them up so someone can make sure they have dinner that night. So it is an important issue for us.
Some of those demonstrators then joined this much larger rally that began at the Battleship Oregon Memorial at Waterfront Park. A large crowd showed up for what was branded as the Workers Over Billionaires protest, with folks holding signs and voicing their opposition to the Trump administration's policies. They also chanted as they walked through downtown and over the Morrison Bridge.
I have a sign that says support working families, not billionaire crooks. And that says it all for me. I'm here to say I support unions, I support working people, I support families. I do not support this broliarchy that seems to be rising in our country.
Just one point of view there, right? The marchers returned where they started to Waterfront Park around 2:30 this afternoon.
There is death in every home. They are the desperate words of families searching for loved ones in the wake of a major earthquake in Afghanistan. At least 900 people have been killed, and there are fears for any survivors, with little aid reaching the region.
A desperate search through rubble. Villagers use sticks, shovels and their bare hands to dig through what were their homes, hoping to see or hear signs of life. I lost 7 children in my family and 3 cousins, this man says. Much of this area in Afghanistan's northeast province of Kunar is still unreachable. Some of those rescued able to walk, others are carried out on makeshift stretchers. It can be a slow and dangerous process. As the hours pass, the scale of this disaster is sinking in. The death toll rising rapidly, so too the number of the injured. We were under the soil, my wife, son, nephew and grandchildren, this man says. Amazingly, they were saved. Military helicopters are being used to transport some of the wounded, landing at an army base where locals transfer patients into ambulances. China, one country to respond to calls for international help from the Taliban government, which has been in control since 2021. The death and injury tolls climbing, and the full extent may not be known for days. In London, Edward Godfrey, 9 News.
The Indian state of Punjab is reeling under the impact of severe floods triggered by incessant rains, with large-scale devastation reported across the state. More than 1,000 villages and 61,000 plus hectares of farmland have been destroyed by floods over the last few days, prompting massive evacuations and relief operations. Incessant rains have wreaked havoc in Amritsar's Ajnala, with flood waters entering houses in Harar, Kalan village and surrounding areas. Ludhiana is also experiencing severe waterlogging in residential areas, with residents struggling to cope with the situation. The city's municipal commissioner has confirmed that waterlogging is a major issue in low-lying areas, and teams have been deployed to flush out the water. The Sukna Lake floodgates in Chandigarh were opened due to heavy rainfall, causing the water level to cross the danger mark. The water level is being closely monitored, and authorities are prepared to respond to any further developments. Residents in low-lying areas have been advised to remain alert and follow updates from the district administrations. Relief and rescue operations are currently underway in Gurdaspur, which has been severely affected by flooding. The Indian Army, the NDRF, the BSF, the Punjab Police and district authorities are working together to provide immediate relief to those affected. The floods in Punjab have severely impacted several districts. Gurdaspur is the worst affected, having 323 villages inundated. There's another village with 107 villages underwater, while Ferozpur has 101 villages affected. Other districts that have suffered significant damage include Hoshiarpur with 85 villages, Pathankot with 81, and Muktsar Sahib with 64. Additionally, Vazilka has 52 villages affected, Tantaran has 45, Moga has 35, Sangpur has 22. According to reports, at least 29 people are believed to be dead and more than 200,000 impacted by the floods. Yesterday, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi called up Punjab Chief Minister to discuss the situation in Punjab. He has also assured all help and support to the state. Tens of thousands of anti-government protesters marched in Serbia's capital Belgrade, demanding early elections and accountability for a deadly train station collapse. The protesters, led by high school and university students, gathered in front of the old railway station in Belgrade, commemorating the 16 people killed in a roof collapse at a renovated railway station in Novi Sad last November. The tragedy ignited a wave of public outrage, with state corruption and negligence cited as a major cause. Protesters are demanding snap elections they hope would oust President Aleksandar Vučić and his ruling SNS party. They also demanded transparent investigations and criminal prosecutions for those responsible for the canopy collapse. Protests were held in several other towns, including Novi Sad and Aleksinac.
We are here today to support the truth, to support what students have been doing for the past 10 months. The time has come for something to change.
I don't see a solution. The only solution I can see, although I don't know what the outcome will be, is elections. We must go out and vote even under these unequal conditions. They are absolutely unequal, but we must fight in any way we can.
Shielded riot police and paramilitary loyalists formed a barricade in front of the President Aleksandar Vučić's headquarters, serving as a human shield against the protesters. This show of force comes as Vučić threatened a major crackdown on those protesting his populist rule. The president has been cracking down on university and high school professors who support student protests, resulting in over 100 of them losing their jobs.
ArcelorMittal South Africa, the continent's largest steel producer, is preparing to cut around 50% of its workforce. This means 4,000 jobs could be lost in a move that highlights the deepening crisis facing the steel industry. The latest plan expands on the earlier announcement to close the company's steel operations at other major production plants. The company is in fact a subsidiary of global steel giant ArcelorMittal that produces about 2.4 million metric tons of steel annually, or roughly about 4% of the group's output. But persistent losses, weak domestic demand and international competition has pushed the South African unit into a corner. It recently reported a half-year headline loss of $56 million, reflecting the strain of high operating costs, poor transport infrastructure and also an electricity supply that remains both unreliable and expensive. Globally, the story echoes a wider challenge of steel makers, cheaper Chinese exports, fluctuating commodity prices and the rising energy costs are forcing the giants to reconsider their supply chains and key production destinations. And our correspondent Calvin Ongu has sent us this report. Listen in.
With approximately 4,000 positions being eliminated from a workforce out of almost around 8,000, AMSA, which is the ArcelorMittal South Africa, is likely to retain roughly 4,000 employees across its remaining operations. This represents a dramatic downsizing of the company's South African presence, focusing on its most viable production lines and facilities. Some labor unions have accused the government of dragging its heels in seeking solutions. Experts say despite efforts from all stakeholders, the expanded job cuts indicate that neither union engagement nor government negotiations produced sufficient alternatives to prevent the comprehensive restructuring now underway. The impact of the closure will be felt most at the towns of Newcastle, Padianaking and Punderville Park. The vast majority of workers have at least 4 people who depend on them. This is called
a catastrophic landslide has claimed the lives of at least about 1,000 people in the Mara Mountains of western Sudan. The landslide struck on the 31st of August following days of torrential rains, completely destroying the village. And according to the Sudan Liberation Movement, there's only one known survivor. Now, the victims had sought a refuge in the Darfur mountains after fleeing the intense fighting between the Sudanese army and the Rapid Support Forces in North Darfur. The Sudan Liberation Movement, which controls the area, has called on the United Nations and the international aid organizations to help recover the bodies and to deliver urgent humanitarian assistance. Now, the Mara Mountains is a rugged volcanic range stretching about 1,600 kilometers southwest of North Darfur's besieged capital of El Fasher. The paramilitary RSF is pushing to capture the mountainous area after besieging it for more than a year. The area is prone to landslides, particularly during the rainy season, which peaks in August. The Sudan's civil war has already driven millions from their homes and has left over half the country facing hunger, and the situation is now worsened by natural disaster, compounding an already dire humanitarian crisis. And our correspondent Louisa Olani has sent us this report from Lagos in Nigeria. Listen in.
Another major calamity befell Sudan as about 1,000 people are reportedly killed in a landslide that destroyed a village in the Mara Mountains area of western Sudan after days of rainfall. This is according to the Sudan Liberation Movement, a rebel group that has been neutral in the ongoing conflict. On Monday, this is a big tragedy. As we know, aid delivery by international organizations has been cumbersome in much of Darfur, including the area where the landslide occurred, as severe fighting is ongoing. Sudan currently sees the world's largest displacement and hunger crisis, with more than 10 million displaced already. Locals hope the warring parties will relent to allow rescuers assist and deliver aid. From Lagos, Nigeria, Louisa Olani, WION, World is One.